Mhm.
All right, good morning. I will go ahead and get started. The first I would like to do is look to our court reporter, who I believe is on the Zoom platform. If you would please unmute and let me know that you are ready for us to go on the record and that you can hear me.
Good morning, Ms. Quincy. Yes, this is Marley Nelson, and I am prepared to go on the record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, good morning. I will officially get us started. It's February 18th, 2025. I'm Nicole Kinsey, the presiding hearing officer for the Administrative Hearings Office of the State Water Resources Control Board. This is the commencement of the hearing on the pending petitions for change of water right permits 16478, 16479, 16481, and 16482 of the Department of Water Resources for the proposed Delta Conveyance project. I will be the hearing officer conducting this hearing in accordance with the board's assignment of this matter to the Administrative Hearings Office. I am joined here today by members of the State Water Board, Chair Joaquin Esquivel, Board Member Sean McGuire, Board Member Nicole Morgan, and I expect that we will also be joined by Board Member Doreen Diadamo and Board Member Laurel Firestone on the Zoom platform. This hearing, the hearing this morning is being conducted in a hybrid format. So for those of us appearing in person, we are in the Sierra Hearing Room in the headquarters for the California Environmental Protection Agency here in Sacramento. And if you are joining us in person today, please be aware of the exits out the back of the room primarily. If we were to have an emergency, please follow the exit signs to file out of the room and out of the building to the Cesar Chavez Plaza across the street, where we will await further direction. Many of you are joining us by Zoom teleconference. If you are intending to make a statement by Zoom today, please be sure that you are logged into the Zoom platform well in advance. There is information for accessing the Zoom platform in the notice of hearing, which is posted on the AHO webpage for this proceeding. You can use any of the notices of hearing, but the most recent was posted to the AHO webpage on January 17th. This hearing is also being broadcast live on the AHO YouTube channel. If you are not planning to speak today, please do use the YouTube channel for viewing the hearing rather than logging into the Zoom platform. The audio and video of the hearing are being recorded. We will post files of this recording in the FTP folder for this proceeding, and the YouTube recording will also be available on the AHO YouTube webpage. We do have a court reporter today appearing on Zoom, and we will post the reporter's transcript when it is available to the FTP folder for this hearing. If at any time you are experiencing technical difficulties trying to communicate with us or accessing the Zoom platform, please send an email to the DCP email inbox. That is dcp-wr-petition@waterboards.ca.gov. The AHO staff are monitoring that and can let me know. We will take breaks today as needed, and we will certainly take a lunch break. The intent today for our schedule is to reconvene after lunch no sooner than 1 p.m., and that will be entirely by Zoom teleconference. So please be prepared to transition for those of you who are here and plan to participate in the procedural discussion this afternoon. Be prepared to transition to an appropriate device. And if there are any policy statements that we do not have a chance to hear this morning, we will reserve them until March 24th because we will be discussing this afternoon procedural matters. With that, I would like to go ahead and move forward. Before we begin with policy statements, I did want to start with a brief background about the project. I know many of us have met before in these pre-hearing conferences, but some of you may be joining us for the first time. The purpose of this hearing is to receive information to be considered by the board in determining whether to approve the water right change petitions filed by the Department of Water Resources, and if so, what specific terms or conditions should be included in any approval. The petitions filed by the Department of Water Resources seek to allow 2 new points of diversion and rediversion for 4 of the water right permits held by DWR for the State Water Project for operation of the proposed Delta Conveyance project. These new points of diversion would be located on the eastern bank of the lower Sacramento River between Freeport and Sutter Slough. Each diversion structure would have a capacity of 3,000 cubic feet per second. Water diverted at these intakes would be conveyed through a tunnel to facilities in the southern delta for export south of the delta. As we have talked about in the pre-hearing conferences that led up to our meeting here today, my role in the following many months as this hearing progresses is to conduct the hearing in an efficient, orderly, and fair manner, and through that process develop a complete evidentiary record on which the board will rely to make its final decision. This hearing will be conducted in accordance with the July 31st, 2024 notice of public hearing and the subsequent amendments, the most recent of which was circulated by the AHO on January 17th. But I anticipate after our discussion today, we will be issuing a 3rd amended hearing notice and procedural ruling. So you can look forward to that. All of the notices are posted on the Administrative Hearings Office webpage for the Delta Conveyance Project, so you can find them there. My intent for today is that we will begin with hearing policy statements from interested persons. After those are complete, as I mentioned, and we reach the lunch hour, whichever comes first, we'll break, and not before 1 p.m., reconvene by Zoom and turn to the many outstanding procedural items that we have on our list. We will address at that time the various proposals to postpone or cancel the hearing and the related requests that the AHO has received. I also intend to talk about the hearing logistics that I identified in the January 17th notice, and I know many of the parties address those in their case management statements, and I appreciate that. Because we are going to start with policy statements, my intent is to defer appearances from the parties. There are many parties, and that will take a little time. So I would like to go ahead and get started with policy statements, and we will take appearances when we're on Zoom and we've transitioned to that format. I attached an order of policy statements in the January 18th hearing notice. I intend to generally follow that order. I'll go through it in a moment. But I also am aware that Ms. Carla Nemeth is here to speak on behalf of the Office of California Governor Gavin Newsom. So I will invite Ms. Nemeth to the microphone first, and then I will invite any elected officials who we may not have received notices of intent to appear from to speak as well, either by making yourself known in the room or raising your hand on the Zoom platform. That would be fine. And we will go through those. And then I will move into the list that I have, which I'll just briefly read so that we're all on the same page. First, California Natural Resources Agency, then Alameda County Water District, Desert Water Agency, Kern County Water Agency, Merced Irrigation District, Metropolitan Water District, Mojave Water Agency, San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, Santa Clara Valley Water District, Zone 7WA, San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency, And then we more recently, and these are additions to the list that we circulated in January, we also have Santa Clarita Valley Water Agency and Max Gomberg. If you're not on the list and you would like to speak today, you're welcome to. Please, the best way to do it would be if you're on the Zoom platform to please send an email to dcb-wr-petition@waterboards.ca.gov. Then my team can let me know that you are present on the Zoom platform and would like to speak. If you're in the room, you are welcome to either sign up. I believe we have a hard copy sign up at the back of the room, or you can also send an email from your device, and we will proceed that way. As a reminder, policy statements are limited to 5 minutes and are non-evidentiary statements that will be included in the record for this proceeding. When you come up to the microphone, either here in the room or on Zoom, please state your name clearly for our court reporter and any entity that you are affiliated with before beginning your statement. And I will turn to the board members. Is there anything that you would like to say before we go ahead and get started with policy statements? Okay, thank you. With that, I will look Ms. Carla Nemeth, please. Secret. Great.
Can you hear me now? Okay, there's. Hello, Hearing Officer Kinsey. This is Ann Carroll with the Department of Water Resources. Director Nemeth actually requested to speak on the 24th if possible. She had a conflict with today. So we would like to proceed with Secretary Crowfoot's policy statement, please.
Thank you. I apologize. I may have missed that detail. So yes, absolutely, we will reserve time on the 24th. And with that, Secretary Crowfoot, please.
All right.
Leave it on.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, Ms. Kinsey and Chair and members of the board. My name is Wade Crowfoot. I serve as our California Natural Resources Secretary. I lead the agency that includes the Department of Water Resources, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Delta Stewardship Council, the Delta Conservancy, the Delta Protection Commission, and others. So I've spent much of the last 6 years balancing these priorities and focused on behalf of Governor Newsom on advancing a water strategy and a water plan for the state that works for both people and our landscapes and nature. I wanted to spend the next 5 minutes articulating why this project is so important to us at the Natural Resources Agency, Governor Newsom, and across the administration. The weather we've experienced in recent days continues a trend that we've experienced in recent years, and that is this whiplash between very dry conditions and very wet conditions. The beginning of the winter in Southern California was the driest in state history. That exacerbated conditions that, of course, led to the Los Angeles fires that have been so tragic, followed by an atmospheric river that came through and created all sorts of flooding challenges. If you look more broadly across this water year, we had a wet December, a very bone dry January, followed by a wet February. This whiplash also exists not only within seasons, but across years. It was only 2 years ago when 5 million Californians were under water rationing. We were actively planning at the end of that 3-year dry period, the driest 3 years in the state's history, actively planning for up to 20 million Californians to be under water rationing as a result of a lack of water supply. And just 2 months later, we experienced what is most likely the wettest 3 weeks in the state's history. So from our perspective, it's critically important that we adapt to these changing conditions, and we do that in many ways. We're working to support water agencies becoming more nimble in their water management to be able to adapt across seasons and within seasons. That's part of what we're doing through another proceeding at the Water Board in this Healthy Rivers and Landscapes proposal. We also are focused on helping water agencies diversify their sources of supply. That includes capturing more groundwater recharge, urban stormwater runoff when it does rain. It also includes becoming more efficient and effective with the water supplies that we have. Huge thanks to the Water Board for its funding and the federal funding for water recycling, for example. But we recognize that most of the state continues to rely on the backbone infrastructure that we have at the State Water Project. Upwards of 27 million Californians get their water from the State Water Project. we need to be able to rehabilitate this project to be able to capture these storm flows when they come, either within a season or across a whole wet season. And one of the fundamental tenets of this project, what we call the modernization project of the conveyance, is to be able to capture these huge storms like those that we've had and actually bring the water for storage and later use. From our perspective, this is critical because we will experience worsening dry periods, and we need to be able to capture the water when it comes. Our estimates suggest that if this project was in place last winter, we would have been able to capture an additional million acre feet of water, which is enough for 10 million Californians for the entire year. If you look at this year, with San Luis Reservoir south of the Delta almost full, the additional water that we would be able to capture would actually go to recharge groundwater basins in the Central Valley, which is critically important for water supply and the implementation of the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So from our perspective, what scientists have helped us understand is bearing out, which is this weather whiplash, and we must adapt the state water project infrastructure. We also know science tells us that increased sea level rise will worsen saltwater intrusion into the Delta and specifically toward the South Delta. And right now we have a system of conveyance for this 27 million Californians that brings water that across a system that is vulnerable to that sea level rise. So part of the benefit of the proposed project with the proposed points of diversion further north and frankly higher than in the South Delta is to avoid that saltwater intrusion as needed in coming decades. We also know that earthquakes remain a concern, remain a threat across California. It's pretty remarkable over the last 5 years that we've dealt with all manner of crisis, but not a big earthquake. But the National Scientific Authority on Earthquakes, the U.S. Geological Survey, tells us that there's a 72% chance that the Bay Area will experience at least a 6.7 magnitude earthquake that could destabilize or take out levees that are fundamental to the movement of this water for 27 million Californians. I'll submit that we have not experienced a crisis like that in California or the country. And if that were to happen, as I understand it, learning from our experts, it would not be a matter of days or weeks before that freshwater supply was restored. It would be several months if we were actually lucky. Again, 72% chance of a 6.7 earthquake could destabilize the levees. So at the end of the day, the focus is adapting this infrastructure so that we can continue to provide the water across Californians that we know is so necessary to our future, even as our communities diversify their water sources and become more efficient with their water. Affordability is, of course, a critical concern across California, whether it's energy prices, housing prices, and even water prices. And what we know is that water supplies from the State Water Project, acre foot per acre foot, are still among the most affordable sources of water in the state when we compare that to other sources like recycled water. And so enabling this continued supply of State Water Project water is essential to maintain affordability. It also allows for water managers that utilize at least some of the State Water Project for some of their supply to actually be able to shift the supplies depending on conditions. It is important to note that I have spent 6 years on this project addressing both the need, but also the concerns that you will continue to hear, throughout this hearing process. And I can tell you that we have fundamentally shifted the project to address those concerns. When Governor Newsom came in, he inherited a project that was larger, the 2-tunnel project that was moving through the Central Delta with, I think, objectively a lot more environmental impact and impact on more communities within the Delta. And we took an extraordinary step of stepping back and assessing the needs as well as the impacts. And that resulted in the project that is now before you, which is a completely different new alignment on the eastern side of the Delta, which minimizes environmental impacts, also provides some potential to hook in communities to the state water project and a source of clean, abundant water. And that directly speaks to the concerns that many had about the previous iteration of the project. This project, in addition, is also obviously not 2 tunnels, 1 tunnel, smaller in capacity. As we assessed essentially what we think is needed, and in order to assure that we weren't building more than was needed, and also for the cost, given that this is ratepayers that are going to fund this, we downsized the project in that respect. We have also focused on specific changes that address impacts. An example that is in my head is to address the impacts of sandhill cranes. The power transmission on the project is actually undergrounded. So a lot of focus, a lot of emphasis on reducing impacts. At the same time, this is a huge project. It's a complex project, and we recognize that it would have major impacts over a decade from construction. So we've also been focused on how do we mitigate those impacts with robust community benefits. Now, I can understand, if, somebody living close by being real concerned about those impacts and the impact on their life and their community. And while we know that this is an essential project to build for 3/4 of the Californians that depend on this water, we think for the future of the state, we want to make sure that those most impacted, actually, that we mitigate those impacts with robust community benefits. And we've been focused on that, spent over a couple of years specifically getting input to provide that, or to create that package of community benefits. I want to acknowledge that we historically have not been effective communicators with tribal governments across California. I talk about us being on a journey, and I'll be the first one to recognize that we collectively have not done a good job implementing or integrating those governments into decision-making historically. And that's a journey that we're on to do better. I am proud of the outreach that happened for this project. Over 120 tribes were identified and were reached out to at the inception of this project. For the 13 that responded, we've conducted over 150 government-to-government consultations, both through the CEQA process and in the pre-consultation process. And I will continue to acknowledge there will be those that oppose this project, but I feel proud of the outreach that's been done that we can, of course, provide details on. Ultimately, we believe and we feel like we know that we must modernize the State Water Project for what is not only to come, but what's happening right now. And we're seeing this in real time. And I've spent a lot of the last 6 years in emergency response mode to our water system. And we're working to get ahead of this so that we build a resilient infrastructure and adaptive management such that California will continue to grow and prosper in coming decades as a result of these changes. Lastly, I'll say very recently, Department of Water Resources received an incidental take permit from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. That's critically important to ensure that this project is operated to avoid, minimize, mitigate impacts on threatened species. I come out of the environmental movement. I worked for an environmental organization before I worked in government. We are committed to this project working both for the communities that need the water, the economy, the farms that need the water, and for the environment. The status quo is not an option in the Delta. The Delta is being impacted by climate change. And regardless of this project, there's a lot that needs to take place in terms of strengthening levees to protect farmlands and communities in the Delta, in terms of restored habitat to enable those threatened species to actually recover, including reducing the pressure of subsidence and the pressure of saltwater intrusion, maintaining adequate flows. So this project is not a silver bullet for the state's water challenges, and it's certainly not the only thing that needs to happen in the Delta. But we are confident that it is absolutely essential, and that's why we spent the last 6 years so focused on this. Governor Newsom, we are focused on completing the permitting and certification process before we leave office in 2 years. And so we would ask for, and just respectfully urge, your work to be as expeditious as possible. We recognize that Inclusive input is critical. Deliberative evidentiary hearings are essential. And from our perspective, after years and years and years, delay can become denial, which is why we're so focused on doing whatever we can, however constructively, to move this project forward as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for all that you're doing to ensure that fair process on this project, and I appreciate the time today.
Thank you very much, Secretary. With that, I will look to the room. Are there any elected officials in the room who would like to speak? I will look to the virtual room. Do I have any elected officials? If you would raise your hand, your Zoom hand. Then with that, I will go ahead and move to Alameda County Water District. Do I have a representative, I expect possibly on the Zoom?
Yes, I'm here on the Zoom.
Please, go ahead.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, my name is Laura Heides, and I'm the Director of Water Resources at the Alameda County Water District. I've been in this role for 6 years and have been involved in water management for 24 years, and I'm really thankful to have the opportunity to speak today. Alameda County Water District is a retail water provider formed in 1914, which serves an average of 34 million gallons of water each day to over 342,000 residents and businesses in southern Alameda County. We were formed over 110 years ago to protect the water in the Niles Cone groundwater basin and conserve the water of the Alameda Creek watershed here locally. But today we manage an integrated portfolio of both local and imported supplies, including imported water from the California State Water Project and the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission's Hetch Hetchy Regional Water System. Our mission is to provide a reliable supply of high-quality water at a reasonable price to our customers. In 1961, the district signed a long-term water supply contract with the Department of Water Resources for 42,000 acre-feet of water per year from the State Water Project, referred to as the district's Table A amount. We receive this water through the South Bay Aqueduct. Availability varies each year, but in most years, the district does not receive its full Table A amount. State Water Project is critical to the district's water supply portfolio for several reasons. It comprises, on average, about 40% of the district's total potable water supply. We also use state project water for groundwater recharge when local supplies are insufficient or when groundwater levels are near critical thresholds. This conjunctive use is key to the sustainable management of the Niles Cone, a coastal basin, and to the continued prevention of saltwater intrusion into the basin from the San Francisco Bay. Additionally, the district's groundwater banking program with Semi-Tropic Water Storage District in Kern County, where state project water is stored in wet years for return in dry years, is critical to meeting district needs during drought when Table A supplies are limited. The district also maintains a robust water use efficiency program, and over the past few years, we've invested $40 million to install advanced smart meters on each of our customers' water connections to help them achieve more savings. Even with these aggressive conservation efforts, though, reliable water supplies are still critical to meeting district customer needs, especially in the face of a changing climate as our water portfolio must adapt. State project supplies are also important for the district's ability to financially manage its supplies. State project water is used in conjunction with groundwater banking and local supplies to optimize the district's operations around constraints while minimizing operating costs. This is especially important in moderately dry years when it can be used to minimize the need for Hetch Hetchy water or costly transfer market purchases if they're even available. This optimization helps moderate spikes in operating costs that would ultimately be borne by district customers through increased water rates. So the Delta Conveyance project is important to the district because it directly impacts the reliability of the State Water Project, which is crucial for our ability to manage current and future water supplies. The district expects that it will help stabilize long-term average water deliveries, offsetting anticipated future declines by allowing State Project to take advantage of high flow events. It will also provide resiliency for the current conveyance system, which is highly vulnerable and subject to significant disruptions from various risks, such as large earthquakes affecting the Delta and salt intrusion from the San Francisco Bay. Delta Conveyance will provide adaptive capacity to help mitigate the anticipated effects of climate change. The district has committed $7 million to do further Delta Conveyance related planning efforts from 2021 through 2027. This is a significant financial commitment for us and underscores the importance of the project to the district's future water supply and management efforts. In conclusion, the State Water Project continues to be a critical resource for us in providing a reliable, high-quality water supply for our customers. It provides approximately 40% of our annual supply and is important for recharging local groundwater and preventing saltwater intrusion from San Francisco Bay. It's key to managing our water supply portfolio in conjunction with investments in water use efficiency and groundwater banking to keep water affordable for our customers and provide critical supplies in times of drought. Delta Conveyance is a vital project to address the declining reliability of the State Water Project and the many pressures on water supply reliability, including climate change. Alameda County Water District supports the change in point of diversion for this important project. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much for your statement. Desert Water Agency. Do we have a representative, I expect, on the Zoom platform?
Hi, good morning. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great. You can hear me okay. Good morning, Ms. Kenzie, Chair Escabel, and members of the board. My name is Victoria Lort, Director of Public Affairs and Conservation at Desert Water Agency, or DWA. We appreciate the opportunity today to speak and to support the CPOD change of point of diversion petition. DWA was formed in 1961 to manage and protect Coachella Valley's groundwater resources, ensuring a reliable water supply for future generations. Today, it continues to play a critical role in the region's water management. Since its formation, Desert Water Agency has grown to provide water to approximately 75,000 people in Palm Springs, Cathedral City, and portions of unincorporated Riverside County. As both a state water contractor and a groundwater sustainability agency, we provide drinking water and recycled water to meet the needs of our customers. DWA serves a diverse population, including disadvantaged communities, and ensures water reliability despite climate change challenges, seismic risks, and prolonged drought conditions. DWA's region is characterized by its arid climate, receiving less than 5 inches of rainfall annually. Managing our water resources effectively is not just a challenge, it is essential for the survival and prosperity of our community. Over the decades, DWA has faced increasing demands on our water supplies due to population growth, evolving regulatory requirements, and climate variability. To address these challenges, DWA has adopted a significant and robust water management strategy focused on sustainability. In 1962, DWA executed a long-term water supply contract with the Department of Water Resources for a supply of water from the State Water Project. To date, as a result of additional purchases and agreements, DWA is allocated 55,750 acre-feet per year, referred to as its Table A amount. Due to hydrological and regulatory constraints, DWA does not receive its full allocation in most years. For example, in critically dry years like 2021, allocations were reduced to 5% of Table A. The State Water Project is crucial to DWA's water supply portfolio, as it is DWA's sole imported water source used for groundwater replenishment. DWA does not have a direct link to the California Aqueduct. Instead, we exchange our State Water Project water for Colorado River water, which is essential for recharging our local groundwater basins. This imported water is a key component in achieving long-term groundwater sustainability and preventing overdraft, a priority since the agency's inception. Historically, groundwater levels in the Coachella Valley declined as more people settled in the region and extracted water without replacing it. DWA was created specifically to address the issues by importing water to replenish the basin. This practice remains essential today, ensuring a sustainable supply for the communities we serve. On average, DWA's groundwater supply, which includes imported water, comprises approximately 90% of our total supply. Despite its investments in conservation, efficiency programs, and groundwater management, State Water Project water remains central to DWA's long-term water supply planning. Unfortunately, the reliability of these critical water supplies has decreased forcing us to seek alternative solutions to enhance our region's water security. DWA has implemented various conservation programs, including rebate incentives and educational campaigns, which have significantly reduced DWA's per capita water use. However, the need for imported water remains critical for sustaining regional water demands and preventing groundwater overdraft. The Delta Conveyance Project, DCP, is vital for DWA because it directly impacts the reliability of the State Water Project, which is essential for managing groundwater replenishment and overall regional water security. DWA expects that the DCP will help stabilize long-term average water deliveries by increasing the State Water Project's ability to capture, move, and store water to make the most of big but infrequent storm events, as well as protect against future supply losses caused by climate change, sea level rise, and earthquakes. With the DCP, DWA anticipates an improvement in the State Water Project reliability, which is crucial for sustaining water supplies in the face of climate change. DWA has made significant financial contributions to the planning and environmental review of the DCP, underscoring its commitment to ensuring a reliable future water supply. Since 2020, Desert Water Agency has authorized $9.7 million in support of the project. Despite uncertainties regarding the total water available through the DCP, the agency recognizes the project's long-term benefits in securing a more stable and resilient water supply. In conclusion, the State Water Project remains essential for our water security and sustainability, supporting groundwater replenishment and conservation efforts. However, the State Water Project's declining reliability necessitates long-term solutions like the Delta Conveyance Project. The DCP will help stabilize deliveries, particularly during dry years, improving supply management. DWA's financial commitment underscores its importance in securing a reliable water future. Together, the State Water Project and Delta Conveyance Project are critical to DWA's ability to manage risks and support sustainability, benefiting not just Desert Water Agency, but the entire Coachella Valley. By supporting the CPOD petition, Desert Water Agency reaffirms its commitment to a resilient water future. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Lort. Kern County Water Agency.
Is it? Okay, it's on. Great. Thank you. Thank you very much to the board for the opportunity to speak in support of the CPOD petition today. My name is Craig Wallace, and I am the State Water Project Manager at Kern County Water Agency. I've been employed by the agency since January of 2015 and have worked primarily on matters related to the agency's water supplies. Since January 2020, I've been employed in my current position as State Water Project Manager, in which I am responsible for tracking the agency's water supply from the State Water Project. Water delivered through the State Water Project is provided to the agency's 14 member units. The agency is a public agency formed under special legislation in 1961, the Kern County Water Agency Act. The agency serves as the local contracting entity in Kern County for the State Water Project and has entered into water supply contracts with its member units that allocate the agency's water supply under its State Water Project contract to provide water for the agricultural and municipal and industrial uses of those member units and their customers. The agency also participates in a wide scope of water management activities, including water quality, flood control, and groundwater operations to preserve and enhance Kern County's water supply. The agency entered into a long-term contract with the Department of Water Resources in 1963 that gives the agency participation rights in the State Water Project, meaning the agency has the right to use State Water Project conveyance system and the rights to a contracted water amount pursuant to an annual allocation based on availability. Under the agency's State Water Project contract, a 100% allocation would mean it would be entitled to receive 982,730 acre-feet of State Water Project Table A water in that year. However, the allocation depends on hydrology, among other factors. So an extremely dry year, the State Water Project allocation may be only 5%, and the agency's allocation of Table A water would be a little more than 49,000 acre-feet. The agency has the second largest Table A allocation behind only the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and the agency is entitled to roughly 25% of the State Water Project annual Table A allocation. The State Water Project is absolutely critical to the agency's water supply portfolio for a variety of reasons, as the agency receives approximately 40% of its surface supply from the State Water Project. The agency must manage its supply for both surplus and shortage conditions. These water management actions include storage puts and withdrawals, purchase of transfer water supplies, efforts for water conservation, public education on water use efficiency, and the development of additional supply or storage programs. As each water year progresses, the agency implements the appropriate water management actions and adjusts as supply and demand conditions change. The water received through the State Water Project is integral to those management decisions. The agency and its member units utilize various groundwater banking facilities within the agency's service area to assist in implementing those management actions. The ability to store water in those groundwater banks in wet years has taken on greater significance under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which will require reductions on groundwater production of non-banked groundwater supplies. Having reliable State Water Project supplies allows the agency's member units to maximize those storage opportunities during wet periods and then be able to draw upon stored supplies during dry periods. This coordination between State Water Project imported water and local groundwater is essential to maintaining the agency's water supply reliability. State Water Project supplies are of central importance to the agency's water supply portfolio and enable the agency to supply sufficient water to meet the existing demands of its member units at affordable rates, while minimizing adverse impacts to the overdrafted Kern subbasin. The Delta Conveyance Project is extremely important to the agency because it will help offset current and declining State Water Project deliveries and forecasted reduced deliveries to the agency and its member units. The Delta Conveyance Project has been developed to restore and protect DWR's ability to deliver State Water Project supplies, which have been steadily declining. The agency expects the DCP will help stabilize long-term average water deliveries under the agency's State Water Project contract by allowing the State Water Project to take advantage of high flow events for use in dry years. The added reliability of State Water Project deliveries under the agency's contract is crucial for its water supply management in the future. The DCP is expected to provide substantial water supply benefits to the agency and will support the critical role the State Water Project plays in the agency's water supply portfolio, the viability of local water supplies to meet demand, and the agency's overall water management responsibilities. Modeling projects that the State Water Project supplies are severely impacted under projected climate change scenarios, specifically a possible reduction in average annual State Water Project exports of between 430,000 to 680,000 acre feet compared to existing conditions. When the DCP is added to the modeled scenarios, the State Water Project exports are expected to be restored by negating some or all of this reduction. The modeling shows that the range of changes in annual average State Water Project exports would be a reduction of about 240,000 acre feet, or an increase of 20,000 acre feet, or potentially nearly all climate change impacts. The DCP will further this key objective of reliability by improving opportunities to capture more water in wet years and to periodically divert water during high river flows from storm runoff in otherwise dry years. Given the arid nature of Kern County, the agency and its member units could put additional water supplies to use, including to reduce the need for groundwater production in the overdrafted local basins, which are subject to significant restrictions in the coming years under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. The agency has made significant financial investments in the DCP planning and environmental review to date. Thus far, the agency has invested $38.2 million in the initial planning efforts for the DCP and invested an additional $34.2 million in planning efforts for 2 prior Delta Conveyance proposals. The agency has made these investments to attempt to safeguard State Water Project supplies in light of the projected reduction in State Water Project allocations over time and the expected effects of climate change and regulatory restrictions on water supplies traversing the Delta. The agency's financial commitment underscores the importance of the DCP to the agency's water supplies and its water operations and management efforts. Despite uncertainties in the total amount of water available to the DCP, the agency anticipates that the DCP will offer important water supply benefits if it becomes operational. So in conclusion, despite the many challenges that have recently impacted water supply reliability, the State Water Project continues to play a vital role for the agency in maintaining water reliability, security, and quality, especially when integrated with other local sources. The State Water Project provides a substantial portion of the agency's total water supply, and the DCP is a critical project to ensure the reliability and stability of that supply, particularly during dry years. The agency's ongoing financial commitment to DCP highlights the project's importance in securing a reliable, long-term water supply needed in Kern County. Together, the State Water Project and DCP are key to the agency and its member units' ability to meet future water demand, manage risks, and provide cost-effective solutions for their customers. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Merced Irrigation District. There a representative on Zoom for Merced Irrigation District? Then I will move next to Metropolitan Water District.
Good morning. My name is Becky Sheehan, and I am a Senior Deputy General Counsel for Metropolitan Water District. Metropolitan and its 26 member agencies provide water to 19 million people in 6 counties in Southern California. On behalf of its members, Metropolitan exports water from the Delta, also from the Colorado River, but we also work with our local agencies to develop local water supplies. For Metropolitan, the Delta Conveyance Project is an essential climate adaptation strategy. It will help ensure that the State Water Project can make the most of big storms in light of climate change as the system moves from being more heavily reliant on snow and having more flashy storm events. The State Water Project water supplies are central to Metropolitan's water supply portfolio. Metropolitan has invested heavily in local projects and conservation, and the continued delivery of State Water Project water is critical for us to fully utilize our past investments. And our past investments have been significant. Metropolitan and its members have invested $1.6 billion in local recycling, conservation, and local groundwater recovery, with a cumulative water supply savings of approximately 7.9 million acre-feet. Metropolitan has invested more than $3.1 billion in storage and conveyance of State Water Project water within our service area through the Diamond Valley Lake Project and our inland feeder. And the reason why we've done this is because State Water Project water is important to us. Metropolitan requires State Water Project water supplies so we can fully utilize our reservoirs. Since our only export supply that we can use to store is from the State Water Project because it is free of the quagga mussels, and our other export supply from the Colorado River is not. Metropolitan is investing heavily in Pure Water Southern California, but we need State Water Project supplies to be a source of water for that recycling. And again, it's because of the high quality water from the Delta. Metropolitan's investing in groundwater recharge, but we need State Water Project supplies to recharge our groundwater because only State Water Project supplies satisfy the Water Board's salinity standards. We also have areas of our district that we call the State Water Project only areas because they have very limited alternative supplies and they rely heavily on the State Water Project. And that is a significant portion of our service area. Metropolitan and its members have also been investing in water conservation for decades. And really our area is a success story in that regard. But we can't solely rely on water conservation to address climate change. Climate-driven risk and other challenges in California and across the Southwest threaten our water supply. The Delta Conveyance Project is a critical climate adaptation that would support the continued delivery of State Water Project water to our service area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheehan. Mojave Water Agency.
Hello and good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the CPOD petition for the Delta Conveyance Project. I am Wesley Masal, a principal hydrogeologist at Mojave Water Agency. For 8 years, I have worked as a hydrogeologist to focus on water resource solutions within the private and public sectors in the state of California. My current role at MWA is to manage our imported water supplies to ensure the long-term availability of groundwater for current and future beneficial uses within our service area, and to carry out the agency's role as water master to satisfy imported water obligations as required within its adjudicated basins. MWA was formed in 1960 to collaboratively manage groundwater basins sustainably, import water responsibly, and address risks proactively using sound science. To fulfill our mission statement, MWA acts as a water wholesaler, importing state water project water to supplement natural supplies and ensure the availability of appropriate quantity and quality of groundwater for our constituents. MWA's service area is in the Mojave Desert region of San Bernardino County, spans 4,873 square miles, and supports a growing population of approximately 500,000 people, and 80% of the service area is classified as disadvantaged communities. An adjudication process between upstream and downstream Mojave River stakeholders began in 1990, and a final judgment was entered in 1996. In 1963, MWA entered a long-term water supply contract with the Department of Water Resources to ensure access to state water project water supplies to supplement local groundwater supply demands. Under its contract, MWA is allocated up to 89,800 acre-feet a year. The MWA service area's primary source of groundwater supply occurs as intermittent storm flows in the Mojave River. Groundwater produced above the limitations established by the adjudication becomes imported water supply demand or replacement obligations that MWA fulfills through participation in the state water project. MWA is a landlocked special district with closed system groundwater basins physically separated from communication with other groundwater basins by mountain ranges and active fault zones. This leaves MWA without access to reliable, naturally occurring surface waters or cost-effective access to alternative supply options like brackish or ocean water desalination. The state water project represents 100% of MWA's current supplemental water supply, which is actively managed to maintain groundwater sustainably, support basin health, and satisfy court-ordered replacement obligations. The agency, stakeholders, and high desert communities have all made major pushes to reduce water use, adopting the adjudication, turf replacement programs, public education and water efficiency efforts, and a historic shift away from agricultural land use has had a dramatic effect on the per capita water use of our service area. MWA is experiencing a period of population growth fueled by the construction of large residential housing tract developments, the construction of high-speed rail connecting Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and an influx of warehouse and logistical businesses. MWA's imported water demands have steadily risen since 2004, while available imported water supply has become increasingly variable since 1999. Addressing the already degraded reliability of the state water project has become a necessary focus for the agency. Without a reliable, functioning state water project, MWA will struggle to fulfill its charge of providing the same benefits many regions across the state enjoy: basic access to water to support its economy and its health and safety. The state water project is facing several emergent challenges that are directly impacting the long-term benefits of the project: climate change, subsidence in the Central Valley, limited project water storage capacity, aging infrastructure, and necessary but complicated environmental regulations. These factors represent a suite of complex variables that are difficult to predict. However, their impact on the state water project is undeniable. The best estimates that have been presented indicate a potential 14 to 22% decline in state water project allocations from climate change impacts, and an additional 20% decline in state water project deliveries to Southern California from subsidence occurring in the Central Valley. Additionally, the current limited state water project storage capacity, surface or groundwater storage, is ill-suited to handle the reduction in efficiency of watershed storage due to the reduction in annual snowpack an increase in the intensity of atmospheric river events. The growing costs of aging infrastructure are a looming financial burden on the project's participants, and the complex political and social pressures that couple with the limited scientific understanding of the actual impacts the State Water Project is having on protected species is making regulatory impacts an ever-changing landscape. The Delta Conveyance project represents a critical piece to a complex solution set that is required to ensure the long-term reliability and benefits of the State Water Project. The current proposed DCP design addresses many of the anticipated climate change impacts on California's water supply, limits exposure to environmental regulations, and reduces reliance on aging infrastructure. The long-term stabilization of State Water Project supplies is a problem crucial to the continued success of the State Water Project and the profound economic and social benefits that the State Water Project has had on the state of California. The DCP represents a critical first step in addressing that problem. A functioning State Water Project is the cornerstone of Mojave Water Agency's ability to successfully manage our water supply to meet the growing demands of our service area. The planning and infrastructure development efforts that we are undertaking require MWA and other state water contractors who have success to sufficient and reliable imported water supplies. The State Water Project represents the most cost-effective imported water supply available to our agency and its disadvantaged communities. Without the Delta Conveyance Project, MWA faces an uncertain future in its ability to meet its imported water demands and charge to sustainably manage its groundwater basins to facilitate the beneficial use of water for its constituents and stakeholders. The Delta Conveyance Project has MWA's full support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your statement. We will move next to San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District.
Yes. Good morning, Hearing Officer Kinsey and members of the State Water Resources Control Board. My name is Michael Plinsky, Chief of Water Resources, representing San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District. And it is my pleasure and honor to be here today to speak in support of the Delta Conveyance Project. San Bernardino Valley is a regional wholesale water agency that covers 353 square miles in the southwestern San Bernardino County and serves a population of more than 700,000 people. With a dedicated team of experts, along with local and regional partnerships, San Bernardino Valley is committed to working collaboratively to provide a reliable and sustainable water supply to support the changing needs of our region's people and the environment. In the face of a changed climate and unpredictable weather regimes throughout the state, our agency continues to invest in a diverse water supply portfolio that will provide a resilient and sustainable future despite the extreme hydraulic shifts we have seen over the past 2 decades. The reality of climate change demands that we capture and deliver water during the wet years so that it is available during the drought periods. The Delta Conveyance Project is one of the most important generational investments we can make to ensure the vitality of California's communities and the robust health of our future economy. We are doing our part at the local water agency level in order to make every drop of water count. We are actively constructing local surface water recharge projects to replenish the groundwater basins that our retail water agencies depend upon to serve their communities. We are investing in local recycled water projects to meet direct demands and to replenish local aquifers, which were at historical lows prior to spring of 2023. We are supporting local water retailer programs for water use efficiency and conservation within our service area. And long-term regional water planning requires investment in diverse, complex, and many times large-scale water supply projects and programs that benefit the community today and into the future. In the 1960s, the voters recognized the importance of supplementing local water supplies to meet the needs of our region's people and the environment. And long-term water supply reliability requires forward thinking. And with that historic decision, our constituents gave clear guidance, which resulted in our agency investing over $1 billion to date in the State Water Project to provide an added water supply to our area. As a state water contractor, San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District has a Table A allocation of more than 100,000 acre-feet a year, a vital water supply to our region. This supplemental water supply has continued to benefit our communities, benefit the communities of our service area, despite reduced availability due to hydrological, environmental, and regulatory constraints. Continuing this tradition of planning for the future and maximizing the benefit to taxpayer investments in the state water project infrastructure, the Delta Conveyance project is critical to enhancing water supply reliability for generations to come. Recent years have shown us just how dramatic the swings in weather can be, highlighting the importance of acting swiftly and with intention to ensure the Delta is protected, while also increasing water supply reliability for those taxpayers who have invested many billions of dollars in the state water project infrastructure over the past 6 decades. The Delta Conveyance projects helps mitigate climate and seismic risks for the state water project, supplies, and improves conveyance efficiencies by moving water through a highly engineered system. San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District, like the California Department of Water Resources and the Delta Conveyance Design and Construction Authority, is dedicated to science-based solutions for investing in long-term water supply reliability efforts that will serve our community and environment for generations to come. We have benefited from the foresight and infrastructure investments of previous generation, and we are in a position today to further those benefits for the future. The agency's ongoing financial commitment to the Delta Conveyance project highlights its importance in securing a reliable, long-term water supply. Together, the State Water Project and Delta Conveyance project are key to the agency's future water reliability and minimizes risks for our community. The Delta Conveyance project will support the changing needs of our current generation while providing an unprecedented degree of resiliency for the future. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Plinsky. Santa Clara Valley Water District. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Gall, and I am the imported water manager at the Santa Clara Valley Water District, otherwise known as Valley Water. I have been managing our Delta supplies and involved in Bay Delta issues for 22 years. Valley Water is the regional water supply and groundwater sustainability agency for the 2 million people of Santa Clara County and its $420 billion economy. We also serve vibrant agricultural communities in the southern part of our county. Approximately 40% of the county's water supplies are conveyed through the Delta by the State Water Project and the Central Valley Project. This supply is used for drinking water and agriculture. It is sent directly to our drinking water treatment plants and is used to replenish our groundwater basin. Our county's demands began outstripping our local groundwater supplies more than 100 years ago, leading to severe overdraft of our groundwater basin and land subsidence, including 13 feet of permanent land subsidence in downtown San Jose. Valley Water's contracts for Delta supplies from the State Water Project and Central Valley Project were critical in reversing this trend. During droughts, local supplies are limited, and Valley Water relies primarily on Delta supplies to provide water to its drinking water treatment plants and groundwater recharge facilities. The percent dependency of these demands on Delta water is roughly 80% in the midst of a drought, but has exceeded 90% in the past. Since 1961, Valley Water has held a contract with the Department of Water Resources to receive up to 100,000 acre-feet of Table A water from the State Water Project. During severe droughts, the State Water Project is crucial for delivery of supplemental Delta supplies in the form of transfers and our banked water returned by exchanges with the State Water Project. These supplemental Delta supplies have been essential in meeting our drought needs, and they are dependent upon the reliability of the State Water Project. While we rely on Delta sources, Valley Water has long been committed to reducing our demands and expanding local supplies. Our residential per capita water use is already among the lowest in the state at 53 gallons per capita per day. And our board has set targets to expand our conservation efforts even more by an additional 48% by 2050. We are also planning for a multi-billion-dollar local direct potable reuse project and the expansion of non-potable reuse in our county. However, even with these initiatives, our water supply master plan indicates a significant shortage in supply by 2050, largely driven by projected declines in Delta supplies due to climate change. Sustaining our Delta supplies and supporting projects that improve the overall resilience and performance of the State Water Project is of fundamental importance to Santa Clara County's future water supply reliability. The Delta Conveyance Project will modernize, fortify, and improve the ability to convey water through the Delta, reducing risks and increasing the long-term viability of the State Water Project. This will in turn improve the long-term reliability of Santa Clara County's water supplies. The Delta Conveyance Project will offset most of the projected losses to our State Water Project supplies due to climate change, as well as improve the effectiveness of groundwater banking programs, which we rely on during droughts. We see the Delta Conveyance Project as part of a long-term strategy that pairs wet year deliveries with new and expanded storage to meet critical dry year demands. Thus, we are also investing in the development of storage projects such as the Sisk Dam Raise, Sites Reservoir Project, as well as groundwater banks. Our water supply master plan combines these projects with local projects in a comprehensive approach. These investments, however, are expensive, on the order of $4 billion. Our water rates have been sharply rising year over year, and affordability is becoming an increasingly urgent issue. High water rates disproportionately impact our lower income residents, and our Delta supplies are among our least expensive options. The Delta Conveyance Project will help sustain these supplies and the State Water Project, potentially offsetting the need for costly future investments with their own environmental impacts. This is very important for our affordability goals. In closing, we strongly believe it is in the public interest of the people of Santa Clara County that the Delta Conveyance Project move forward and gain permitting through this state board process. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your statement. Next, I'm turning to Zone 7WA. Good morning.
Good morning, shorter person here. Unfortunately, Valerie Pryor, who was going to be presenting with me, could not make it today. So I'm going to be giving the whole thing. So my name is Sarah Palmer. I am on the board of directors for Zone 7 Water Agency and also immediate past president for the Delta Conveyance Authority. I also chaired the Stakeholders Engagement Committee for the Delta Conveyance, where we met with about 20 Delta folks, including tribal units. The Zone 7 is the wholesale potable water supplier to the cities of Livermore, Pleasanton, Dublin, and San Ramon, and also provides untreated water supply to approximately 3,500 acres of agriculture. The State Water Project comprises approximately 90% of Zone 7's water supply, with a population of 270,000 residents and assessed property value of $343 billion. The Tri-Valley area is one of the fastest growing areas in the San Francisco Bay Area and is a thriving major economy. The Livermore wine region, which is Zone 7's main agricultural demand, saw approximately 416,000 visitors in '22 and generated an estimated $2.4 billion in annual economic activity. This was just one industry that Zone 7 and the State Water Project supports. The State Water Project is also critical to maintaining a healthy groundwater basin. The local groundwater basin was in severe overdraft until Zone 7 began importing surface water in the 1960s from the State Water Project. This has been successful in reversing the trend of declining groundwater basins, and the basin is currently designated as a medium priority. In 1961, Zone 7 executed a long-term water support contract with the Department of Water Resources for a supply water from the SWP. Under this contract, Zone 7 is allocated over 80,000 acre feet per year. It's referred to as our Table A. And in most years, Zone 7 doesn't receive the full Table A, as you know, due to hydrological, environmental, and regulatory constraints. On average, over the past 15 years, Zone 7 has received about over 38,000 acre-feet per year, and in dry years, this amount has been as low as just a bit over 4,000 acre-feet per year. Since Zone 7 is dependent on the SWP for up to 90% of its water supply, the SWP is obviously critical to Zone 7 as water supply and for the health of the groundwater basin. More recently, due to PFAS contamination in the groundwater basin, Zone 7 has been forced to rely more heavily on surface water supplies from the State Water Project. Zone 7 also stores wet year State Water Project supplies in water banking programs in Kern County. And during dry years, the bank supplies make up nearly half of the total Tri-Valley water supply, while our bank supplies will still make up and without the bank supplies, Zone 7 would not have sufficient supply to meet our demand during these dry years, so the DCP plays a very important role in this. The Delta Conveyance project is extremely important to Zone 7 because it will help offset the declining SWP deliveries to Zone 7. We expect that the DCP will help to stabilize long-term average water deliveries to Zone 7 by allowing DWR to take advantage of the high flow events in the wet years. And then this we can use during the dry years. In part, this will affect our ability to use our crucial groundwater banking system. Restoring reliability of State Water Project deliveries is critical to Zone 7 being able to maintain water supply reliability in the future. By 2070, State Water Project reliability for Zone 7 is expected to decrease to 22% without the Delta Conveyance project. With the Delta Conveyance project, that reliability will decrease by only 7%. Additionally, the Delta Conveyance project provides dual conveyance across the Delta for State Water Project operations. The DWR has modeled seismic scenarios in which exports from the current Delta Conveyance facilities are unusable for several months, as was pointed out previously. This is a significant risk to Zone 7 as our service area is located upstream of San Luis Reservoir and certain portions of Zone 7 service area, including our Patterson water treatment plant, are located upstream of any sizable surface water reservoir. The DCP will provide vital redundancy to our system, mitigating the impacts from a potential catastrophic event on any single Delta Conveyance facility. In conclusion, for the Zone 7 Water Agency, the DCP is important to maintaining water supply reliability for our community and its 270,000 residents. Climate change is resulting in rapid swings from wet to dry years, and we need the ability to capture wet year water for use in these dry years to maintain the quality of life, economic vitality, and environmental health of our region. The DCP will provide our community water supply for drinking water, for water quality blending, and to help to maintain our groundwater basin. We have invested significantly in the DCP, and it is a crucial project to ensure long-term reliability of water supply, especially during the dry years. We urge you to recommend approval of the change in point of diversion for this important project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Palmer. It looks like I have 3 more on my list. My intent will be to move through those and then take a brief break, and we can look to the sign-up sheet in the back of the room as well as our email inbox. So if you are planning to speak and have not yet let us know and sent an email or signed up in the back of the room, please do so. And that email address again is dcp-wr-petition@waterboards.ca.gov. And with that, I will turn to San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency.
Thank you very much. Lance Eckhart, General Manager with San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today. A lot has already been said, so I'm just going to go through the high points of the letter that we have submitted earlier today. The San Gorgonio Pass Water Agency was formed in 1961. We service approximately 100,000 residents, and that number continues to grow. cover about a 225 square mile area in Southern California. So we're along the I-10, sandwiched between the greater San Bernardino area and the low desert like Palm Springs. And that's what we're talking about. It primarily captures the communities of Banning, Cabazon, and Calamasa. We are a growing area. We are one of the areas of affordable housing for the Southern California region, but we're also a disadvantaged and primarily severely disadvantaged area. So having water security or affordable water security is extremely important to us. Now, we were formed back in the 60s and have a small but meaningful to us Table A contract with the State Water Project. We have 17,300 acre feet of Table A. It took us nearly 4 decades for the State Water Project, the first gallon of State Water Project water to hit the San Gorgonio Pass area. So we've been planning and investing in the project for decades before we ever received any benefit from the State Water Project. By the time the State Water Project finally made it to our region after 40-something years, the long-term average of our Table A was pretty much cut in half. So what we signed up for back in 1961, by the time it got here, was cut in half. And that is a serious blow to the region for our planning, for our future investments, and to what was envisioned back in the 60s when we first signed up for the project. Now, we consider ourselves kind of jokingly a drip emitter at the end of the State Water Project. We are literally at the end of the line. The State Water Project stops about, on the East Branch, stops about a mile north of my office. Which means we are very susceptible to capacity constraints. We can't take big drinks of water. We need kind of a constant flow of water. We have any types of shortages, emergencies, or infrastructure limitations have a ripple effect all the way down to us. So it's very important for us to have more tools in the toolbox and ensure that we can get the water that's available when it's available. Now, we have a saying, you make hay while the sun shines. Well, we harvest water when it's wet. And the DCP really is a critical to making sure that we can harvest that water when it's here before it hits the ocean, because we do not have an ability to make that water up in future years. We have an adjudicated basin, and that's governed by a water master, as well as 2 Sustainable Groundwater Management Act or groundwater sustainability planning areas within our region. So we have 2 SGMA agencies and 1 adjudication. Those are all predicated on physical solution of being able to import water and manage your groundwater basins. Now, I'm a hydrogeologist. That's out here, we're very well managed. It's not a problem, but it is predicated that we import water and top off our basins and use our natural infrastructure when it's available and there's not stress on the system. Again, make hay while the sun shines, import water when it's wet, harvest that water. DCP, the modernization of the State Water Project is really, I think, for the state and for San Gorgonio Pass, critical path. We need that tool in our toolbox to make the best use of water when it's available. In addition, we work very collaboratively with our other State Water Project family members. We have different assets and liabilities. We don't necessarily need water during a drought because we rely on our groundwater basins, but we do need to top off those groundwater basins when the water is available. And therefore, being a drip emitter at the end of the line, we're partnering with other folks higher up in the system to do banking projects and so forth to preserve the state's water harvest and then move it around to communities, making it the highest and best beneficial use for everyone when it's available. DCP is going to be, and this change of point of diversion is going to give us an incredible tool to do more of that collaborative work and creative resource management. To us, DCP really is our climate change response, or a big part of it. Conveyance was always envisioned as part of the State Water Project, and this modernization of the project and understanding that water now comes as rain and doesn't come as snow anymore, not nearly as much, shows that Conveyance has been envisioned for decades, but it's time now. This really needs to be our climate change response. We're seeing flashier deposits. You heard earlier from Secretary Crowfoot that we need to be more nimble. This makes us more nimble. This just fits. In addition, We also have unfunded regulatory mandates. We have a pretty significant amount of naturally occurring hexchrome here in the region, and looking at state water project water as a way to avoid areas of hexchrome in the groundwater basin or potentially be used as blending is really, really important. One of our local cities, who's a primarily a disadvantaged community, is estimating that their hexchrome response is going to cost them north of $60 million just to get the project up and running. And that is an incredible burden for a city that just doesn't have that kind of money. And yet the regulations and the timelines keep narrowing and narrowing. We're looking for solutions today, but having sources of clean, imported, relatively affordable imported water is going to be very, very important to the disadvantaged communities out here to ensure that we keep up with water quality standards now and in the future. Again, who we are, primarily we're a groundwater agency. So again, our edge is that we don't need water when it's dry. Specifically, we need it when we need to bring it down when it's wet and spread that water and put it back in our groundwater basins. And I think that really shows the importance of things like the healthy river landscapes and the other things that have been talked about of more adaptive management and leveraging our natural assets. Again, the groundwater entity, we can pull water when it's available here locally and take less pressure or take pressure off the delta when that water is needed during drought conditions. But when it's wet, we've got to be able to move that water either here locally as much as we can, or take some of that water and move it to other parts of the state through various partnerships to leverage our mutual assets, and then pull that water back through banking programs and whatnot. Our region has been slowly transitioning from agriculture to more urbanization. We are a fairly high growth area. We've done a lot of water conservation. We've done recycled water. We even have dual plumbed homes with recycled water and potable water, and really stretched our water resources quite a lot, and continue to do so, and taking water as a conservation as a way of life very, very seriously. But we are still in a housing crisis, and affordable housing is kind of a hallmark of the San Gorgonio Pass area. And it's extremely important. And having resource security and really just a business case security of knowing that our contractual amount of table A or our ability to import water or move it around is going to be there in the future. And that's going to be very, very important, especially housing shortages disproportionately impact kind of our most vulnerable populations. And we think that DCP is a big fix on helping alleviate a lot of those issues that California is and will likely continue to experience moving forward with regards to housing. In short, you've heard most of these talking points before, so I'm going to wrap it up. But San Gorgonio believes in preserving the abundant water harvest of California and making sure we make the most highest beneficial use of when that water is wet, which we're going to see more and more with climate change. Conveyance has been contemplated many times in many different iterations, and we feel the time is now. Let's do it now. So we urge the State Water Resources Control Board to approve the petition of change in the point of diversion associated with the DCP. This project is a vital step towards securing California's sustainable and resilient water future. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eckert. I'm turning now to Santa Clarita Valley Water Agency.
Good morning, and thank you. My name is Matthew Stone. I'm the General Manager of the Santa Clarita Valley Water Agency, SCV Water or agency in this statement. And we have submitted our written statement this morning. I've served in this role for the past 9 years, and over the last 40 years, I've served as a consultant, staff, or manager for a number of local and regional water agency providers in California. SCV Water serves approximately 300,000 people in the Santa Clarita Valley in northwest Los Angeles County and a small portion of Ventura County. Our mission is providing responsible water stewardship to ensure the Santa Clarita Valley has a reliable supply of high-quality water at a reasonable cost. The agency manages a diverse water supply portfolio, including imported water, local groundwater, recycled water, water banking, and conservation. The State Water Project makes up about half of the agency's supply, with local groundwater and recycled water making up the other half. State Water Project water is delivered through Castaic Lake on the west branch of the project, treated and delivered to local residents through an extensive water transmission and distribution network. Currently, the agency's State Water Project contract provides for a nominal Table A amount of 95,200 acre-feet per year from the State Water Project. However, annual Table A allocation varies widely due to hydrologic, operational, and permitting conditions. On average, the agency may receive about 50,000 acre-feet, but in a critically dry year, this can be as low as under 3,000 acre-feet. In a very wet year, we may be able to take close to our full Table A amount if available, but this is subject to operational limits and permit conditions. The agency's local water resources include the local groundwater basin, a recycled water distribution system that serves several parts of the community and has planned expansion through both new construction and recycled water retrofit projects. Expanded use of treated wastewater currently discharged to the Santa Clara River is also subject to a complex environmental permitting and water rights process, which we are in the midst of. The agency's water banking programs are a key part of water supply portfolio in times of drought and emergencies. State water supplies available in wet years are stored in groundwater banks in the Central Valley for delivery through the State Water Project system and use during dry years. The agency is also evaluating local opportunities and constraints to recharge State Water Project supplies into our local groundwater basin. The recent severe drought years were an example of the benefit of conjunctively using State Water Project water and water bank storage. Another benefit we realized was when PFAS chemicals impacted our local groundwater supplies. Impacted wells were turned off to protect public health, and the agency has embarked on a program to install multiple new treatment systems. This will require hundreds of millions of dollars and several more years to complete. State Water Project supplies, both Table A and our banked wet year water, have recently comprised as much as 75% of the agency's total water supply, while PFAS treatment systems are being built. This coordination between imported water and local groundwater and banking programs is an essential component of the agency's water supply reliability and security. The agency's significant conservation efforts have resulted in a demand savings of about 30% compared to 2010 levels. Despite this significant savings and the agency's continued efforts to pursue conservation goals and comply with the water use efficiency as a way of life legislation, these savings alone cannot replace the need for State Water Project water. State Water Project supplies are important to the agency's efforts to financially manage its supplies and maintain customer affordability. The Delta Conveyance project is extremely important to the agency because it will partially offset forecasted declining State Water Project yield. The DCP has been planned to adapt against climate change, guard against earthquake risks, and reduce pumping conflicts in the South Delta by adding operational flexibility. The agency expects that DCP will help stabilize long-term average water deliveries under the agency's contract by allowing State Water Project to better manage high-flow events for use in dry years. This, in turn, will help the agency maintain higher long-term water supply reliability than without the DCP. The added reliability of State Water Project deliveries under the agency's contract is crucial for its supply management in the future. It is important to note that in addition to the DCP, the agency will also be making significant investments in local projects, conservation, water storage, and banking to provide reliable supplies. Without DCP investment, the resulting reliability will be reduced. The State Water Project, in conclusion, continues to play a vital role for the agency in maintaining our water supply reliability, security, and quality. The project provides a substantial portion of the agency's total water supply, and the DCP is a critical project to ensure the reliability and resiliency of that supply continue. The agency's ongoing financial commitment to the DCP highlights its importance in securing a reliable long-term supply. Together, the State Water Project and DCP are key to the agency's ability to meet future water demand, manage risks, and provide cost-effective water supply to our customers. and would just conclude by saying we support the change in diversion petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. And finally, before we break, I will look to the room. Max Gomberg, please.
Good morning, Water Board hearing team, Chair Esquivel, board members, staff. My name is Max Gomberg, and I'm here today speaking in a personal capacity based on my 20 years working in California water, including 10 years working for the State Water Board. I'm going to focus my remarks on a challenge that the Administrative Hearings Office faces in this proceeding, which is determining whether the proposed project is in the public interest. Generally, decisions about the public interest are made by the legislature or by the voters. And when state agencies make public interest decisions, they generally do so via quasi-legislative proceedings. However, in this case, we have a quasi-judicial proceeding and a statute that directs the board to reject an application to appropriate water if the board determines that the appropriation would not conserve the public interest. And make no mistake, while DWR and others may say that this is simply an application about infrastructure reliability and changing a point of diversion, this is very much about the appropriation of water, especially and alarmingly during dry years, when impacts to communities and the environment are the greatest. Moreover, this is not a standalone application, and the AHO is under no obligation to treat it as one. This project, along with the long-term operations of the State Water Project, the state's jurisdiction over the Central Valley Project, and the Bay Delta Water Quality Control Plan are all interrelated, and an informed decision on the merits of this application must account for cumulative impacts. Thus, the AHO must decide how to allow for the development of a record regarding the public interest within the confines of a trial format. The AHO has already contemplated time limits for the trial phase, which is understandable given the large number of parties. Nevertheless, ensuring a complete record regarding what constitutes the public interest is of paramount importance. The AHO must allow parties to present evidence on all aspects of the public interest, such as the economic and social impacts to communities and along with the full suite of authorities the board possesses to satisfy the public interest and uphold its legal duties. Earlier this morning, Secretary Crowfoot spoke about the costs of State Water Project water relative to other sources. This hearing needs to cover all aspects of supply, demand, and cost, including whether the Table A allocations and other SWP contract terms are equitable and appropriate in our changing climate. It must also address the equity and racial justice issues of how a $20+ billion project will be paid for. And I say 20+ billion because we all know the history of large infrastructure cost overruns in this state. The AHO must also determine whether it has the necessary expertise to render judgment about the public interest. Are lawyers who specialize in water rights and staff trained as scientists and engineers sufficiently versed in other disciplines relevant to assessing the public interest? This application is not simply a water rights matter. It has statewide implications that will last for decades or longer. The AHO should inform the parties whether it intends to hire any technical experts, as authorized by Water Code 1111 C1. The AHO should also be forthcoming about whether it will make findings relative to the public interest, or whether it will simply present and discuss arguments and evidence for board members to assess. Fundamentally, this application is about policy choices. It's about how we allocate water, who benefits, who pays, what opportunities are opened or foreclosed, and who bears the consequences. We are living in a time of crisis, both political and environmental. The impacts of these crises fall disproportionately on marginalized people and places already suffering from the greatest environmental degradation. The Delta Conveyance project would result in even further harms to them and foreclose other investments and strategies for generations. The AHO's mandate is to be neutral, fair, and efficient. To fulfill that mandate, The AHO must not limit this proceeding to narrow issues of water rights and construction impacts, as that would bias the hearings in favor of the applicants. In closing, let us recall one of Gandhi's famous quotes. Earth provides enough to satisfy man's need, but not every man's greed. Even in the driest of years, we have enough water for our needs in California, for essential domestic use, for the environment, and for a reasonable level of agricultural production. But greed is omnipresent in California water, and the DCP is no exception. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Mr. Gomberg. And just to clarify I think I can address some of this, just to clarify for those who are listening about the process here, the Administrative Hearings Office and I, as the hearing officer in this proceeding, will not be making any findings of fact or final determinations of law with respect to the pending petitions. That is a decision for the board members. The role of my office is to assist in preparing a draft decision with the assistance of staff from the division, as well as the Office of Chief Counsel. So we will be preparing that draft when the time comes down the road. That draft will be circulated publicly. There will be an opportunity to comment on that draft, and it will be heard brought to the board in a regularly scheduled board meeting. So we will have that transparency available. At this point, it is 10:36. And first, I'll note for the record, welcome to Board Member Diadama, who has joined us here in the room. I'd like to go ahead and take a 10-minute break. That way we can organize ourselves with others who may have submitted requests to speak. So I'd like to go ahead at 10:36. Now 10:37. Let's reconvene at 10:47, and we will pick up with anyone else on the Zoom platform or in the room who has requested to make a policy statement. Thank you. Sorry to hear that. I think this is fair, and then we'll see what we have. All right, welcome back. I will look to our court reporter on Zoom. Are you ready for us to go back on the record?
I am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So we are reconvening after our brief break. It looks to me, we were able to go over our records. It looks to me like we may only have one commenter left. Dan Whaley, who I understand is in the room today. Thank you, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Dan Whaley. I had red hair when I first moved to the Delta. I was a Delta resident for the last 40 years. I live south of Cortland. I have a small vineyard on Sutter Island. I desperately urge you to reject the Delta Conveyance project. When considering what is good or bad policy for California water future, it would be hard to conjure up anything worse than this tunnel. The legislature recognized in 2009 Delta Reform Act that the Delta ecosystem was collapsing and California's water supply system of exporting Delta water was unreliable. The legislative solution was, quote, reduce reliance on the Delta in meeting California's future water supply needs. This $25 billion tunnel siphons Sacramento River directly to export pumps. It's only one use to export Delta water. The tunnel increases reliance on the Delta. This is a bad government decision and is contrary to good policy and law in the Delta Reform Act. What about the collapsing Delta ecosystem? According to this board's 2010 Delta Flow Criteria report, the Delta ecosystem crisis is caused by not enough fresh water flowing through the Delta. We need to increase freshwater flows through the Delta to stem this, but the tunnel decreases the flow of fresh water into the Delta by diverting Sacramento River upstream of the Delta. So the tunnel flouts the Delta Reform Act and does the opposite of what the flow criteria report says we need to do. But it gets worse. The tunnel runs contrary to the basic purpose of having the state water project in the first place. Let me explain. We go back to Governor Brown, who built the state water project. He explained the basic idea, and I'm quoting from the Chronicle, 1959, quote, the Delta is a gift from nature that we never fully appreciate. Above the Delta, we have both a supply of water and the sites to store it. Within the Delta, we have the natural point of convergence. When we wish to export water to an area lying to the south, the Delta can serve as the pool, if you please, as the tap from which the water can flow, end of quote. Governor's Delta as a pool requirement was codified in the Burns-Porter Act and authorized funding of the state water project. Senator Porter was the co-author of the Burns-Porter Act. Senator Porter explained that Delta as a pool requirement of this legislation in the Assembly Journal of June 10th, 1959. He stated, quote, no construction is contemplated of a state water project component unless it fulfills the clear purpose of augmenting the supply of water in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. In other words, no part of the state water project may be built unless its purpose is to augment supplies of water to the Delta. The tunnel diverts the Sacramento River upstream of the Delta and decreases supplies of water to the Delta. In no way does the tunnel augment supplies of water in the Delta. So in the end, the tunnel is contrary to good science in the flow criteria report and contrary to good policy and law in the Delta Reform Act and the Burns-Porter Act of 1959. As a final matter, DWR water masters claim the levees are unsustainable. And yet today, in brimming high water, they are working just fine. In drought water times, they work just fine. And frankly, with the high volume of roadways used, they must be maintained. They will work if we maintain them. As a final and most important point, these permits have expired. I'll say it again. These permits have expired. When my permit to build something expired, I had to start over. I had to file a new request for a permit. They are not entitled to special treatment and must play by the rules. It is up to you to stand up for us. There is no light at the end of this dark tunnel of bad government policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whaley. Thank you for your time. With that, I will turn to my team. Is that we've completed the list of commenters? Thank you. So with that, we will go ahead and close out this morning of the proceeding for policy statements. My intent is to reconvene at 1 o'clock on the Zoom platform. So virtually, we will not be in this room. It will be virtual only. I will see all of you at 1 o'clock. We will go through appearances, and then we will dive into the procedural discussion that we will have today. Thank you and see you at 1.